Hello and welcome back to another episode of Power Rangers Lore. Today we'll be discussing the Power Rangers series from worst to best, in my opinion. We're going through all 30 seasons. Yes, 30. I'm putting in one that you probably don't think is another season, but it has changed drastically. Let's start out with that. So this top tier countdown from worst Power Ranger season to the very best is all based on my opinion and is based on a number of factors: villain, writing, Rangers, 6th Ranger, and introduction, and ending as well. All these have to combine to basically focal point exactly what I believe. Now this is all opinion based because everyone's opinion is completely different. Everyone grew up with different times. I am a nostalgic fan, however I'm also not blinded by nostalgia, so just be aware that these are just my opinions, and while you have opinions of your own, that doesn't mean they're any wrong or worse or greater than mine. So just so you know, guys, this is an entirely countdown of the top 29 best Power Rangers seasons, starting with the worst and counting down to number 1. Number 29, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the Revision series. Now, if you guys don't know what that is a revision series of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Yeah, they did it in 2010, right when essentially got put on Nickelodeon, and they just basically, it was a rewriting of the original season 1. By rewriting, I mean literally it's just the exact season 1, except for they add like pow, bang, boom, comic book type sound effects, the big POW pictures from like straight from the Batman series from the 50s. It was completely unnecessary and kind of like a downer. I don't even know why they even did it. It's kind of like, it's insulting the series. Just put the old series back there because there wasn't anything that kids didn't like back then. Just put it in there. Just basically make more wacky sounds doesn't make any better. There was already wacky sounds to begin with in the original series. Whew. Now that's off my chest. Number 28, Megaforce. Now, you guys all know that I am not a fan of Megaforce at all. Mega or Super, they're both terrible in my opinion, but Megaforce is very weak for this many reasons. Not just for my own personal hatred towards it, but because it starts with a great premise. It's gonna have this massive battle we all know is coming. It's the 25th anniversary, so the hype is there. However, the letdown is so steep, you basically fall to your death waiting for something to happen that's going to introduce this battle to begin with. Troy has a vision in the very beginning episode, before he was even a Ranger, about being a Ranger and fighting alongside essentially all the Legacy Rangers, and then doesn't tell anybody at all until essentially the very end of Megaforce, so Super Megaforce, and it's kind of stupid. They had this huge premise, they could have been building up towards it. This Armada's coming, but we're going to send one monster at a time and not make this huge thing. They could have done so much more, calling back to every episode, building up with them, and then going to other Rangers, needing their help to lead up to build up something more even further to Resistance Force of sorts. They could have just played off more, wrote more of their own script besides going the same on nostalgia, but that's what happens when you build on nostalgia. You are building basically off of what is to happen, basically what the past liked a lot. Now, same thing happened with Star Wars and the new sequel series. A lot of people don't like them because it's all nostalgia based, and they go, well, the writers they'll just love it because it's nostalgia. It's going back to there. But you didn't. They didn't like it at all because it just didn't make any sense, and the writing was piss poor. Sorry. Now, at number 27, we have Super Megaforce. Now, Super Megaforce is equally as bad as Megaforce, but better because it has the Rangers that from the past finally show up in it at the very end, and it kind of redeems it somewhat on the very low end of that. That's kind of it. The villains were blah. The Prince was kind of cool, I guess, because he had an actual plot, but no one really cared. In truth, he brainwashed a Ranger. It's not like we haven't seen that before, and it wasn't even a Ranger that anyone really liked. So, sad to say, it's still number 27 on the list and very weak. Now, number 26, we have Samurai. I like Samurai a lot, but it had a lot of weak points to it. The origin episode being shown later on in the series and not really explaining a lot of things kind of hit some issues there. The character development of some of the characters was very blah. Jaden was cool, but his character development was very weak. He just kept lying and holding a secret back, while basically the main villain there was like, hey, I could do so much more with this. It was pretty interesting, the Nilox and the gap sensors and stuff like that. But overall, still a very weak season, and could have done so much better. But hey, this is just the beginnings of the new Nickelodeon Rangers series. At number 25, we have Operation Overdrive. Now, this was a very interesting series and very different. It had more than one villain or one main villain. It had a bunch of side villains all over the place. Furious Moltor, the Fear Cats, Miratrix, a bunch of different characters all over the place. And it had Rangers, rather than just fighting to save the day, were actively looking for something to stop the villains from getting, or basically releasing, or putting on, or whatever. Even though most of the time when they found the stuff, it usually ended up in the villain's hands in the end or the long run. Now, it was a very good season. It had some really cool backstory information. We had basically Mac is a robot in disguise, but no one knew, not even himself, except for his father who created him. And it was a heavy-hitting part of the entire season, and the end when he realizes this and has a confrontation with his father. And it's not just a one-episode confrontation, but several episodes where he deals with this and says, basically, you can just build another one if I die. And I thought that was very hard-hitting and the like. However, it was still a very weak episode that most people just don't like as a series because it was very different. There's too many villains to attract and kind of distract you from what the purpose all was. Now, it was a very good Adventures Indiana Jones feel to it, but still very weak as a season. Now, it did have some redeeming factors in it that it did have as the once a Ranger episodes that brought them back, but it had a villain just didn't make any sense to me of where he was in the timeline. Thrax, as you guys all know him, that he was the son of Rita and Zed, and kind of an issue for me because I go, where did you even come from? Like, when did they have a kid? It just didn't make any sense to me. It is one of those writing things they just threw in there to basically bring back for nostalgia purposes. Kind of an issue on my point, but hey, some people like that character, or they don't, they just like the episode itself, and I understand that. Now, at number 24, we have Super Samurai. Now, this season redeemed itself slightly compared to all the other seasons, growing on and evolving and basically learning on what was going on there. We had Serrator show up, revealing that he was the Nilok who made the deal to make two of the current villains from humans into Nilox themselves, and as well as setting a more subtle bad guy. He was doing more things than just doing brute force and growing from that. I enjoyed that character. I thought he was smart and clever. However, he was his own foolish end, as well as other Nilox. They just ran into the story of just basically attacking. There wasn't any other real major plan besides Serrators. Even though we got other characters here and there, with the biggest being Lauren, the actual true reveal and the secret that is Jaden's had to hold and his whole entire burden being revealed, they quickly cast her aside, which gets down points right there. However, she was the first Ranger and Red Ranger to ever supplant another Ranger from a male to a female. I thought that was really cool. I liked Lauren's character entirely, but they did her dirty. Basically, everything that she spent her entire life up to doing was mainly pushed aside, and no one really cared after that. Even after the series, they basically said, well, we're going our own way, bye sis, bye, and that was kind of it. Still, Master Xandred was very strong, but his whole entire tactics as a villain, just slow and unnecessary, and I felt as though that there should have been something more, a more subtle bad guy or warlord. He just kind of got lucky in the end, and that's why they had to go. They were supposed to see him away, and because he ate or absorbed Dayu, he became part human at that point and didn't have to basically grow up anymore. I feel as though that could have been quicker, more easily done, and he could have been like destroying the Rangers easily, but he's too dumb to actually figure that out. So that's what knocked off that to number 24. Now at number 23, we have Super Dino Charge. Now, Super Dino Charge, I liked the series starting out. I really did. I thought it was really good, well written. The villain was amazing. We got Heckle, but we had Jekyll and Hyde type of feel, which is a combination, Heckle, with Snide and Heckle. I thought there could have been so much more played off there, but then we got them cast aside because of this other backstory character, which I understand. It gives a character growth for the main villain as he becomes good and the separation of stuff like that. But then they brought back Sledge. I just don't understand Sledge at all. I don't like Sledge. I thought he was a dumb bounty hunter, and again, just another Master's android. Brute force is gonna deal with it. Even though I'm a bounty hunter, I don't actually deal with anything my way. I just send my own prisoners. Kind of dumb in my opinion, but whatever. Also, the main plot issue I have here is the very couple last scenes where they accidentally get the world destroyed. I was fine with. I was like, oh my gosh, the Rangers actually have consequences? This is amazing. They go back in time, but they don't go back in time before they destroy the planet to stop the dark energy from being destroyed, prevent the black hole from being created. No, they go 65 million years in the past and stop the meteors from killing dinosaurs, because those were sledges, which we already knew, but it causes this whole timey-wimey thing, and then they get back and dinosaurs are fine free roaming around the world. That's an issue. I didn't like that. Though they did explain later on this different dimension, I go, still, why was that necessary? Like, I don't understand. Why would that be necessary at all? Sorry, that's just my opinion. I just thought it was completely unnecessary and threw off the entire series. I talked to other people about this, and they kind of had the same feeling. So, you know what? I don't feel as bad when I put that out there and put it so high on the list at number 24. Now, at number 23, we have Jungle Fury. Jungle Fury, good series. I liked it a lot. However, it stalled out in plot point. The only thing that ever kept me truly interested was not the Rangers. I'm sorry, some of the stories were kind of boring. Theo's, he just annoyed me. He's like, I'm gonna do 10 different things at one episode, and then he'd still do it later on, but it just changed up. Like, he wasn't growing as a character. The only thing he grew was like, I'm gonna ask the girl out at the end. That was kind of it. The real things was the villain. The villain I liked. Daishi was awesome. Him possessing Jared's body the entire time, and Camille, their interaction, I loved it. And them playing up her loyal subject, slowly falling in love with him over time, and him being protective, even though he was kind of an abusive boss, but he wasn't that abusive. He saw her loyalty and always repaid it in kind. As a villain, you still have to be abusive to your minions, but in the end, she fell in love with Jared, not Daishi, and I really liked that whole thing. So that gave it points back up, but overall, the storyline was boring. We didn't really see an actual threat from them. They had cool Spirit Rangers, and they did some cool stuff, but they didn't really see anything that I saw were world impacting as he's supposed to be, like he's this great thing. Also, the plot point where they were showing off the box at the very beginning, and the Master of the Order of the Claw goes like, we are here to protect this box, and instead of like wrapping it in chains, it just falls over when it gets kicked out of his hands, and it just like releases it. I felt like you had a better protection system. You could have, like, there was nothing there to stop that. I don't know. Little things, guys, can put anything in these Power Rangers, because a lot of these are close together. So that little thing, push it up there. On the next list, we have Dino Charge, just beating out Super Dino Charge by 2 positions at number 21. Now, Dino Charge had a better starting overall compared to the second season of this, and I will have to say why, because we had different Rangers going on there. The story was more natural and flowing together. It wasn't just all 5 Rangers being grabbed up. We already got the 2 Rangers already positioned up there with Coda and the Black Ranger, whose name escapes me currently, but then we had the Red and Pink Ranger introduced in the same episode, and their entire backstory, so they were never meant to be the Rangers and not chosen by, well, Kendra, but we got them introduced, and they basically hit the forces of darkness at the same time. Then we got later on the Green Ranger added on there, and it was pretty interesting there. Now, the good storyline points I'll start off with first, and we'll go to the end. Good storyline, Kendall, amazing mentor. I'm going to say she was the mentor rather than Keeper, because Keeper didn't really do anything. He was the wise, sage advice character who went there, patted them on the backs, and said, good job, guys. Here's a little wise saying thing there, and if they needed some, like, character development or like to grow as a character or some major advice, he would say something like wise and sagey, but it was Kendall who did everything. And people go like, well, that means she was like the Alpha 5 character. No, I would say because she gave them advice too. She would basically manage the cafe, the entire museum, the ranger stuff, create weapons for them, do 10 million other tasks, make sure that some people are doing their jobs, and then also look beautiful every day. Like, I don't know how she did it. Like, that girl was crazy on top of things. So Kendall basically doing stuff, and then when she dressed up in her Cupid outfit, that's all I gotta say there. Got points for that. I don't care what you say. You can judge me for that, but I don't care. However, there were some other weak points going on, and that is easy to say from this little theory going on that the storyline was weak. It was like, I said it was strong starting out, but the weakness of it all was like them playing catch me if you can with these dino gems. I found this gem, here comes the main bad guy. That was kind of it. There wasn't at the end of the day, at the end of the season, okay, we beat the bad guys, but what does that mean? We're still in Immortal Power Rangers. What does that even mean? Because it came there. We also had Fury on Earth for 65 million years, and he didn't do anything. Like, he fought some knight and devoured him apparently, and kept his body inside of him the entire time, but he didn't accomplish anything in all those centuries. He didn't go digging for these dino gems the entire time, or he didn't like try to conquer the world himself, which he could have. Who was going to oppose him? Like, during the Roman Empire, he could have like walked up, slaughtered everybody, said, I'm the Emperor of Rome. We're going to start digging the earth for gems, and people have been like, well, diamonds are fine. And he's like, sure, but I'll bring them back. I got to inspect them all first. And they probably went, okay, cool. Like, he could have conquered the world, but he didn't, because he's stupid and poorly written character. I don't know. We got the cool Gold Ranger, which gave it points back, but there was just no accomplishment. Sledge, useless. I'm sorry. You can say Sledge was cool, but he was dumb. He was super dumb. He proved by never, like, dealing with his, like, girlfriend the entire time, and then all his minions were really, really dumb. They didn't have a major plan. He wanted it to do something? I don't even know. Like, he was supposed to, like, bring it back to somebody else, but he wasn't going to do that to begin with. So what was he going to do with all that power? Nothing. He wasn't going to do anything. He was going to be like, I'm cool, I've got a cool gun. That's essentially what he was going to do. So that took a weak points off there and only put it at number 21. Now, at number 20, we have none other than Ninja Storm. However, interesting series doesn't quite cut it. It had its little weak points here and there, and people are going to go, "What? I remember Ninja Storm. That was a great series." It was. It was a good series. It was very interesting. It was the first time Disney actually did a series out there, and it was very well written at times. However, it did have its weak points, and you're going to be like, "Oh, you're just nitpicking." I have to. We have all these seasons of Power Rangers, so I have to nitpick. So, Ninja Storm. What was the good points? We got a cool 6 Ranger. We got Cam, Samurai. We've been wanting him since early on when he said he wanted to be a Ranger. We're like, okay, yeah, Cam. He'll be awesome 6 Ranger. It'd be really awesome to see him up there kick butt. He was kicking butt even in human form. So imagine if he had early on, there wouldn't be a major power struggle at all. However, the other weak point to counter that was there was originally 3 Rangers we wanted to do. Red, blue, yellow. And then we got another 2 Rangers, the Thunder Rangers, which is red and blue. Wait, we already have a red and blue Ranger. Yeah, what was the point of that? They should have been something else. They could have been like Yin and Yang, a white and black Ranger. Yeah, that would have been awesome. They would have been like, well, we gotta change the footage. Who cares? You can easily do that, or you can just make up your own. Who cares? Disney has the money. But, it could have been like Yin and Yang Ranger or something like that. And also, this is the only season where 5 Rangers were men and 1 was a girl. So she had no other support on the screen as being the only eye candy or whatever else. She was beyond that, just eye candy. She was kick butt and awesome, but like there was nothing else to like appeal to like girls at all. Like going, okay, there's one girl, but there's no other girls on this besides villains who are either dumb and ditzy or just, I don't know, plain stupid or pretending to be villainous, but again turned back to being dumb and ditzy. We also had a major villain of Lothar, which was cool, but he broke the 4th wall too many times. He would constantly look at the screen and have all these plans and be funny and stupid and stuff like that. And at times he'd be like, if you played like a crazy person, he'd be more better, but he didn't do anything in truth. He could have showed up on Earth and just wiped out the Rangers 7 different times. There was nothing holding him back from doing so, besides the fact of his overall plan, which he did have one, was to send these monsters down. If one of them beat the Rangers, good job. But if they didn't, I'll just fill up the Well of Darkness and I'll just gain all its powers and just resurrect them all with that power and attack everybody with them. That was his strategy. Just keep setting things into a blender and hope for the best. That's kind of what he was doing, and then in the end he was still defeated and thrown down there. It was a cool reveal with like the Darth Vader scene where like I am your uncle, like the flashback scene and the time travel stuff. But that was kind of it. There wasn't any real sustenance or drive behind this that said maybe, yes, I need this in my life. I don't care what you say. It is going to be that. And I felt like they could have done better. Like Shane and them were all pretty cool. Dustin was really good and Tori was really good. But I really didn't care about the other Rangers besides Cam. Like, they were cool, but they could have done better. And I felt like the storyline kind of lacked off. They were so strong early on as the evil versions of Red and Blue, but then they just got weak and kind of useless. So, you know, that is just my opinion on why it's number 20 out of 29 for Power Rangers series. At number 19, we have Beast Morphers. Now, Beast Morphers, ooh, that was a good series starting out. It really was. And this is going to be Beast Morphers Season 1 and 2 because I miscounted. Don't come at me like that, but I miscounted. Now, Beast Morphers Season 1 and 2 was good. However, it had its faults. And we're going to be pointing this out. Some of the characters were kind of dumb. They had another Bulk and Skull type character show up there, but they had a reason for being there, and I was okay with that. They had an interesting mentor who was very militaristic, which we already got from Lightspeed Rescue and other things, but she was, I don't know, less flexible. The smartest character in the entire series was the mayor. I'll have to state this. It had the concept of morphing grid energy was going to be harvested to power the world's energy supply, and it was going to be free, which is, you know, we can't have that. That's socialism. But hey, whatever. We'll talk about that. I was kidding. But they had that whole theory, and it was a smart idea. However, there was several different things the mayor brought up. We're going to summon villains or alien monsters or somebody to our front door going, we want this energy for ourselves. This is morphing energy. This is Power Ranger energy. And they would go, we've got Power Rangers to deal with that. They have three freaking Rangers to deal with this. And that's their whole plan. Like, oh, we got three. That's all we need to protect the world. Mind you, all the monsters could have attacked at different points of the world with all these. It wasn't just this one spot where this giant morphing generator was. It was all over the world, is what they said. And it was shown all over the world. But the monsters and villains of that series kept attacking that one spot. So I was like, okay, that was kind of dumb planning in there. The villain in the first season was kind of boring. Like he was definitely scary looking and stuff like that, but he was kind of boring and dumb. He created humanoid clones of like two of the Rangers that were supposed to be Rangers, but they weren't. They were basically put in comas the entire time and were supposed to take all their powers, but didn't. And we had two different Rangers that took over the position, and the team grew from there. But they were dumb and always fighting with each other that caused their own plans to falter and fall apart. It's just an issue there. I thought that was kind of like, okay, whatever. And then they had the cyber dimension. They didn't explain anything about the cyber dimension. And then the next season, they changed it to another dimension entirely because, well, they blew up the dimensions, which makes sense there. But, like, where was that cyber dimension? I want to know more. Didn't tell me. I was like, okay, whatever. We got the other dimension. And then the redeeming part of this season was the villain being revealed to be none other than Vengex, the Vengex virus from RPM. When I was watching that, I was at work and I looked up and I saw that and I was like going, what? That's him? Oh my gosh. They brought back the voice, they brought back everything, and that redeemed it. That villain was like, he was like playing the same way, and I look back and I go, you know what? That makes sense why he was choosing the same thing. He was still in Vengex mode, and it explained how he got there and all those different things. However, the weak point is, why was the RPM stuff being hauled over to that dimension? Why wasn't it being the other way? Because Dr. K, I don't think she would give it out so easily. They did bring back Dr. K. They also brought back a few other characters here and there, and I liked that. They also talked about essentially the setup for the Centurion Ranger. They had a police force out there, intergalactic-wise, who was basically doing whatever a Power Ranger could do, but they weren't Power Rangers yet. They basically said, to be strong enough for this, I have to become part cyborg. The Centurion Ranger is a complete robot, and that's the only other way I can see for them to deal with the forces of darkness in space or in galactic wise without being a Power Ranger. Be part robotic or cyborg. So, you know what? Good on them. Now, the other bad points were the villain's plan, kind of weak. The Rangers themselves never really truly grabbed me. Ravi's
disinterest in like painting because his mom was against it. I understand that it happens a lot. There's a lot of things we fear, but her hatreds towards that, like, he's got to have a hobby. He can't be full on there, or you're just going to create a super soldier that will eventually turn on you. That's what happens every time we have there. So you know what? I understand those points, but you know, there wasn't any true Ranger. Like, I remember Robbie. I don't really. The Red Ranger always has problems with his parents, parental issues. So that saying that again would be like a character thing. Not really. He didn't even know his dad was possessed for most of the second season until it was too late. So you know what? Good on you, buddy. The 6th Ranger, well, technically the 4th and 5th Ranger, I call them the 6th Rangers because, well, they showed up and they were the only other ones who show up after that, were interesting but boring. Like, he was cool. I love the love interest between them and why they couldn't be together. And that was a really interesting plot point. I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool, that the whole thing, like, you can't date another Ranger because it would cause conflict. Fine with that. I understand that. That is a completely ideal way for, because they were kind of a paramilitary group. But overall, I thought there were some other issues here and there that the series could have done more and was weaker on. At number 18, we have Power Rangers Turbo. Now, a lot of people will be saying, what? What do you mean at 18? This should be like at 28, 29. It should be at number 40, even though it's on the series. Because a lot of people do not like this series. There is a lot of hatred towards this series, and I believe it's all misplaced. Now, it is not the best series out there, I will say with that, but it was very interesting. Justin stands out in my mind. And you know what? If there's a series that stands out for a certain reason, I have to look into the reason why that is. Now, most people do not like Justin at all. They go, he's a small kid. I understand how he can just grow in that size. That was the dumbest thing. Okay, let me tell you about Sentai and the White Ranger that everyone loves. Tommy Oliver, right? Everyone likes that guy. Well, in the Sentai version, it was a young kid about younger than Justin who did the exact same thing. He just grew up in size, and that was him. So you know what? Get over it. Like, that's it. People didn't like Justin. We understand that. People didn't like Carlos or anything else. I understand that. But guess what, guys? They're Rangers. They're Legacy Rangers. Now, why does people hate this series so much? I'll get down to this really quickly. Halfway through the series, the old original team that we had grown up getting used to, Tommy, all of them, Rocky, everybody we loved, disappeared this series. Beginning either in the movie or just was replaced as time went on because they left the cast. And a new cast was thrown in there besides Justin. That's why people don't really like the series. They don't want to say it, they don't really think about it that way, but they go blame everything on Justin because he remained. That's all I'm going to say. Now, why is it on number 18 on my list? Well, that's very simple. The plot point was a little weak. Again, it's just the same thing like, hey, we're going to come back and destroy the Rangers and conquer the world. Okay, that is the same thing for a lot of different series and stuff like that. We had Diva Talks, great stuff. We had the Phantom Ranger come in as an awesome Ranger, and I loved him, but he's not a Power Ranger. And so technically I can't call him the 6th Ranger until they officially announce it, but he's still not a Ranger in any point of view. He doesn't have a Ranger form. He just has his form. That's his form, guys. As much as I want to say it, I love him. He's my favorite of all the Rangers, but he's not an actual Ranger. So we missed that point. We don't get a 6th Ranger. We get a Centurion. He's not technically a Ranger either, guys. It's kind of dumb. They had a time travel arc, and it was basically he came back to warn them about something, which was just setting up for something in a later series, which means this whole series was a setup series, and that is why it kind of gets a lot of hatred and gets neglected like the previous series, Zeo. Everyone liked Zeo. People go, Zeo was cool. We had Tommy as the Red Ranger leading the team. We also had John St. Austin come back as the Gold Ranger, and people liked that. It was really cool, all that tough stuff. And then we get Space after Turbo, and people go, oh, Space is so cool, da-da-da-da. Well, you have a mountain. What's in between a mountain? Usually a valley or some type of dip. And that's what's going to happen there. It's going to be, everyone's going to forget remember these two titans and forget the guy in the middle. So that's what I have to say about that. Now, overall, why I put it there, it is in the middle. It gets neglected because it's a complete setup series. And I understand why it was necessary to put that series there. But again, remind you guys, it was just setting up for what was to come after. And that was the whole thing. When it ended on a bang with the Rangers losing, that threw me off. I was like going, oh, are we having another Mighty Morphin to Zeo thing? Because that's how I remember it ended for that one too. But instead, this is worse. They had to go to space. Their mentor was captured. All that type of stuff going on there. Also, for the mentor for this one, it was just a Zordon ripoff who had some apparent backstory with Divatox, but it was never fully explained, so major plot holes there. Divatox's own backstory, where she came from, is highly unsuspect as well, and we don't know if she was actually connected to anybody. And it was kind of cool, kind of weak. Elgar was the comic relief. We had Bulk and Skull. Again, they were just getting old and stale. We needed something new, and we kind of get something new in the following season, but not for Turbo. It was still a good season. It had a lot of good memorable points and a lot of little horror things, in my opinion. When they made Justin a robot but didn't tell him he was a robot, it took go fight on other planets, and it just threw him off entirely. That's how you make psychopath robot killers, guys. Just want to point that out there. Other than that, that is why it was only 18, and it will stay at 18 until possibly a worse series gets there or a better series pushes it up higher or lower. Now, we have at number 17, Dino Fury. Dino Fury was very interesting, I will have to say this point, but you know what? It has a lot to work on. It has not completed its second season at this point out here, and I liked the starting out of it. However, there are some major characters I do not like. Now, we are going to say Dino Fury Season 1 and 2 are combined because they don't call it anything different. It's just Season 1 and 2. There's no Super Dino Fury as far as I'm aware. I always called it Dino Fury. If they called it Super Dino Fury, I'm sorry, but since it's not completed, I'm going to combine them two into one focal point at number 17. And let's talk about why it is number 17. Well, we get Cool Knights, we get more past. They bring back the Morphing Masters. That's a major plot point that was mentioned way back in original Mighty Morphin Season 1. So I was like going, okay, this is cool. They get their powers directly from them 65 million years ago. Okay, interesting, they led a battle. He was in stasis the entire time. Okay, that's why we didn't see him. And they were just hiding out trying to survive. The other Rangers might have been killed in the final battle there. That's really awesome. That's pretty cool. Okay, that's very deadly. They basically self-sacrifice. He's a knight. Okay, cool. Now for the first season, the Red Ranger, pretty awesome as a leader. I like him. He's very straightforward. He listens to his team and does all that stuff. I understand that. The characters themselves are very interesting characters, each one. One is a very science know-it-all person. He's like, I believe in science, don't tell me I'm not right. I'm always right. We had a girl who believes, she loves to blog about the cult stuff, things about magic and, you know, spooky stuff, ghosts and the like. And those two clash. And as time goes on, it apparently proves that the science guy kind of likes her. And he kind of has to have he has a long arc where he's basically put in this position where he's always a know-it-all. Until someone, his best friend, which was a teacher he basically would always hang out with at school, slapped him across the face and said, the only reason I hung out with you, kid, is because you pissed off all your friends by being a know-it-all. Stop being a know-it-all. He didn't sugarcoat it. He just basically just said it to his face, and he was like going, what? My whole life's been a lie? And after that point, he's been super kind to the only other person who's been kind to him, and that is our very favorite occult girl. We also get the pretty awesome Green Ranger, who is the first LGBTQ plus Ranger, and she's not just a cardboard cutout. Oh, we just had a Ranger for LGBTQ, and we're not going to do anything with her. They gave her multiple episodes of storyline. They keep bringing back in her girlfriend. They had a whole thing of people misunderstanding the whole situation, and her dad kind of not really understanding, while her mom is also basically had a conflict of interest. I like that. It's not just, I don't like characters they make that are LGBTQ plus and they don't do anything with them besides to go, look, we're showing representation. You're not showing representation. You're just going, oh, we got more viewers because of this, and that's it. If they show it and they constantly support it, I'm fine with it. I like the character to make sense, and you know what? Izzy makes sense. Izzy makes sense. I love her, and we're not gonna push any past that. She's a great addition to the team, and I liked it when she first shows up and she goes, I don't need a skirt, and just rips it off. I go, well, that deals with that instantly. That takes care of that entire situation right there. Thought it was a really smart moment for them to do that, and I'll have to go off of that and give that props. Now the villains. Void Knight. I love Void Knight. I think he's my favorite villain / anti-hero so far currently in the series of Power Rangers, and I will continue to support that idea because he is super interesting. He doesn't even care about the monsters and minions he resurrects and sends out. He just wants them as power sources, and he knows if they die, he can always just snatch things back up and use them to power his thing to bring back his wife. He doesn't even care if they win or lose, or the Power Rangers die. He just wants to get their power source, and I like that. He also has a awesome armor. He lies to everybody about that, and he could care less about the Rangers. He's like, oh yeah, you fight the Rangers, good job, whatever. And like he doesn't, like, when he fights the Rangers several different times, he kicks ass. He does every time. He's also the earliest villain to get into the Ranger base immediately. Like episode 1, he's the reason that basically the Rangers were even resurrected as a team, because he goes in there and looks at things. If they literally let him got his stuff, he could have just got his stuff in the resurrected and got off the planet with his crazy wife. Maybe not, but like still, it would have been more interesting. Like and then him turning and realizing his wife was just batshit crazy, and he basically instead of just like bowing before her and going with it, he has this coming to light moment, going, "She is nuts. I gotta get out of here. I gotta help humanity, because apparently I just wanted to bring back this wife, and apparently she went through some crazy stuff that she's not even touchable anymore." Now, why is it only 17 if I'm getting all these praises? There's some major knockoff points. The major knockoff point is the 6th Ranger. He was resurrected to fight back by none other. Oh, sorry. He was resurrected to fight Lord Zed, but he was resurrected by the Green Morphin Master. That's what was said. It was literally shown the thing, and that's what he was supposed to do. He never fought Lord Zed. Lord Zed left before he could do it, so Lord Zed's still out there. It's kind of a plot point that's open for the door. What's going to happen with Lord Zed? So it's kind of off point. Like, what's going on? Is Lord Zed coming back? Also, we have the plot point of, what is his point? He's arrogant, self-centered, believes that he knows it all better. We already had a know-it-all believes he knows it all. He says he's a knight and had to go through this rigorous training and stuff like that, but he acts like a kid. Like, I'm sort of like teenagers with attitude, but he acts like a child. For a guy who fought in a war and stuff like that, this guy is like, or the worst. He shows up immediately and goes like, "You don't need to lead the team. You got everybody killed. You did this whole thing." I go, "That was cool," but then he just got worse and he didn't improve. He's so cocky. He's a cheater, in my opinion. I watched that race where he raced down the hill against Izzy, and like, he totally knocked her tire in. I raced bikes when I was a kid, and up till the age of 19, and I know when that happens. I see it happen. I've been tempted to do it. You know what? But you can have more control over that. And he entirely cheated just so that he wouldn't lose. He doesn't like to lose things. You can tell by his entire character. That's what he refuses to do. So that's what I'll have to say about that. So weak point there. Now, another weak point is, where is this story going from this? Void Queen, we don't know what her background is. We don't know why she's upset with humanity. I feel as though it could have been more introduced when her character comes back, like why we should feel like bad for her, or like why we should go, okay, she's crazy because she was tortured and stuff like that. I feel it has something to do with the Area 52 or something like that, what it's all called, or whatever area secret base place is there. But there's just so many weak points that just makes me go, what is going on here, and why does this even matter? So that's just a little issue here and there that I have. There's no major threat that they're dealing with besides Void Queen currently. We have Lord Zed out there. It was teased, but is he for another season? He's just set up. It takes off points there, and I feel as though until we get a full season, can't rate it any further or higher than this. So it's going to stay right now at number 17. At number 16, we have Alien Ranger. Now, Alien Rangers was a very small season, and I don't have much to say about it. So let's get right to it. Alien Rangers was a 3.5 series, is what it actually meant. By 3.5, I mean it was at the end of Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers 3rd season, and was the beginnings of an introduction into the Zeo crystals and the like going on there. It had the Rangers get demorphed and turned into kids, and so they had to summon Rangers from Aquitar. We had very interesting Zords, we had very interesting Rangers, and I believe we had the first female-led Ranger team, so it was pretty interesting there as well. I liked the whole storyline going on there. They were basically here to support the Rangers, and they would eventually go back. Now, these Rangers would have more introduction with the Zeo series, and even call back to Billy himself and ask him to come back. So I'll give that as props and additional add-ons there. They didn't have a mentor besides Zordon and the like, so any points you get Zordon for, just push it up there, because Zordon was very wise in the series and very helpful overall. However, it was a very short series, and it could have been, if it was like a couple, like maybe like 20 episodes total instead of 10, we could have gotten more going on there. We also had the interaction during those times of the Alien Ranger series, as of them trying to figure out how to become adults once more. So I liked it. It was pretty good, but again, it was only 16th on this list, and it can only grow from there as time goes on if they ever go back to Aquitar. Now, at number 15, we have SPD Emergency. I had to say it because every time I say SPD Emergency, I have to say the rest of the title. Just gonna let you know there, guys. This was an interesting series. At 15, it did a lot. This was a completely interesting and different series out there. I keep using the word interesting because, well, they were all individually interesting. There's a few that I'm not going to say against because they were just boring, but that was early on. Megaforce, I'm going to say it again now. SPD sets up in the year 2025, I do believe, is the time frame, which we're getting pretty close in that time frame. It's only 3 years away, and we had a police force ranger team, and that was kind of it. They were there to stop an intergalactic warlord, Emperor Grum, from conquering Earth. Now, it wasn't just like they were trying to fight him in other places, but they didn't have jurisdiction in certain areas, so they had just let those planets go. That's bureaucracy at its best. Yay! Gotta love it. Now, this team was very cool. They were all different, had individual storylines, and though it seemed not connected at all besides their special powers, they had a deeper storyline with their own families being connected in the past. Now, the other interesting storyline was none other than who was Sky's father. That was a plot point and a big question mark still up to this day. Who is his father? Is it Wes? Is it somebody else? What is going on there? It could have been anybody. And it's a question that takes off like going, they could have mentioned at this point, but they haven't. So it kind of takes off from that thing. We do get the cool 6 Rangers. We get 2 actually, 6 and 7. We get the Omega Ranger, and we also get none other than the mighty Anubis Kruger. Anubis Kruger was awesome in every sense of the word. However, he was a mentor, and he kind of became his own ranger and kind of stole the spotlight for the rest of the team. Jack was cool, but he was a good leader. I'll say that. He was a good leader. He was good at doing his job. But as a character growing, there wasn't much growing besides he became less selfish. But in truth, he was towards, like, he didn't look at, like, cops the same way after this. That's the only thing that he saw. He didn't like the police force because he felt like they weren't helping anybody. And then from there, he even quit the force to help himself. So he didn't really grow as a person. He just went back there and had a little more respect there. So whatever. I think that was kind of a weak point. Like, as a character, he didn't do anything. We also have as another weak point, Anubis Kruger stole the show. Everyone remembers Anubis Kruger and they go, he was badass. It's true, he was. We had Sam as the Omega Ranger. He was cool. He kicked everyone's butt. But no one really remembers what role he really played. Kind of upsetting and sad there. But whatever. To knock off some more points here and there, we also have Emperor Grum, who was kind of useless. He could have attacked earlier on and he just didn't. I don't understand, for a world planet conquering emperor, they didn't hold him back too much. And his minions were kind of smart, but there's too many plot points. And then the red reveal that he wasn't the main threat, it was something else going on there. It was a big, basically alien brain monster thing that was actually the ship. Was cool, but where was the plot? There should have been more build up for that. And the reason why this got knocked off so much is because, in truth, this wasn't the full plan of the director. The director's plans were cut when the budget got cut by Disney, and it caused some issues there, and his storyline had to be cut up, as most things are, and he didn't get to tell the full story that he wanted, which is upsetting. The Rangers themselves were awesome. The mentor was awesome. They also had Kat, and they had a few other stuff here and there. The villains were subpar, but there were some interesting ones here and there that were playing manipulative mind games, and I like that, but overall it was just, they could have been better. The writing was good in the beginning, the acting was good, but it just got blah after time went on. So I have to say that is why it is only number 15. So from there, at number 14, we have none other than Super Ninja Steel. Super Ninja Steel was interesting, to say the least. Now, it's sad to say this, but it was the better of the two series of Super Ninja Steel and Ninja Steel, but not good enough. Like, it had some major plot points. The end of Ninja Steel, we're going to combine this real quick. The Ninja Steel had where the father was saved and revived, essentially, and fought as the Red Ranger. Well, Super Ninja Steel itself, who cares about the father? Push him aside. Forget about him. That was it. I thought that was a weak point and overthrew everything to put that, so I just immediately shoved that aside. I was like going, they built this character being gone, and they did nothing with him. Absolutely nothing whatsoever. So that immediately put a points there and put him at number 14. However, it did have some redeeming characters here compared to other series. It had a full storyline. The villains, though, were weak. For Super Steel, Madame Odious, kind of useless, but had a great and powerful Zord. She had a lot more plans of poisoning things, but you never really saw it too much and stuff like that, so I was kind of upset with here. We also got the new Megazords, as well as the Heir to the Lion Galaxy and a few other things here and there, so it's pretty interesting going on, but we didn't get too much more than that. We had essentially in episodes where shown the Ninja Prism Star was connected directly to the Morphin Grid and also connected to the Morphing Masters that was later revealed in a few other series, but that thing was basically sentient and watching the entire time, and even deemed them unworthy of gaining these Megazords until they proved themselves as worthy, and I like that. Also, the character reactions for these Rangers was better than the last few series. Gonna point out there, I really like the couple Rangers, the yellow and I believe it was the pink Ranger. They were great. I like their entire, basically them working together and their relationship and them clashing and him being forgetful and stuff like that. I like that. I like to play off those characters. They were really good as a couple. The other Rangers, Preston, God, he was annoying. It was like, oh, I've got magic. Didn't explain why. I understand why he liked magic, because he was like a training magician, but then suddenly he can just do real magic. Man, when he became less of a ranger and couldn't connect to the Morphin Grid anymore, that was probably going to really upset him. I don't know, I'm just going to state that right now. So, overall, it was better than other series because it had a more complete storyline going on there, and they got to meet up with the other past Rangers in this big episode going on there. We had the Tommy of the Morphing Masters. We had like a Shadow of the Grid type of character going on there, but that was kind of it. That's why it's only number 14. It could have been so much more because the other series set up for so much here. And we're going to go down to number 13 with none other than Ninja Steel. Ninja Steel was better than Super Ninja Steel because it had a lot more stuff and cool things going in it. The 6th Ranger was gold and dumb. I didn't like his form. I didn't like he was a cowboy or that his morpher was a burger. But we had some other cool things going on. We had Mick as the mentor. Now, Mick is by far the best mentor of this date I have to say. I really liked him. I thought he was great. He, instead of like most other guys who would like, oh, well, you did this wrong, or try to say something, he would look at the problem, hear what the problem was said, but wouldn't directly go, well, you need to go apologize. No, he would start asking questions about the situation, and then go, does that seem right to you? He's like, well, no, but, and it's like going, oh, and just like give like a quick little advice thing. And they're like, well, if I was you, I would, well, if you want, say if like he got like found $5 and he stole from somebody by accident, he's like, well, I saw it first. And he's like, well, maybe you should get split it because it wasn't really your money to begin with at the beginning. He said that, just like, oh, well, maybe, and that'd be the whole situation there. Like, Mick was a good person. He wouldn't directly interfere. He was smart. He would go, I know how to do this much, but that's kind of it. Like, he wasn't all-knowing. He basically said that. He's like, I'm not all-knowing. I don't know what the heck this is. This is beyond my entire thing. He also had a growth episode, essentially, when he found out the conquerors of his galaxy were showing up. I thought that was pretty cool. Just a cool little setup there. And he's still showing up in series as time goes on. So I got a lot of points for Mick because I really like Mick for some unknown reason besides the fact that he's awesome mentor. Now let's talk about what else redeems this series but also hurts the series. This hurts the series, the villains. good God, they are dumb. They were set up to do like a game show to fight who can beat the best ranger to prove that who's the strongest. I understand that, but if the champion goes down there, why not he just do it to begin with? He went down there before and lost everything. Like he couldn't do anything. Like he went down there and fought the Red Ranger's dad and the Gold Ranger's dad, and then that was it. That was it. And then he years later returns back to Earth after kidnapping the Red Ranger, and then basically not doing anything with him. He could have like trained him to be evil. Like he could have set up thing where he could be like learning all these ninja moves from his student and turning him evil the entire time. That would have been a good like storyline going on there. But that was it. They didn't do anything with there, so that kind of like negged off points. Now the Megazords are pretty cool. I like them. Some of them were kind of useless and only seen a few episodes, so just taking off for that. But overall, it was still a good series and connected off a few little issues here and there. I did enjoy it. That is why it was number 13. Now at number 12, we have Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 3. Now you're probably going, see, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 3? Why is that only number 12? That should be further down. I will explain to you. It was kind of a useless season at this point. It was the same stuff, just repeating the cycle over and over again. We got two new forms. We got the metallic form, and we got the Ninja Ranger form that was said to be more powerful, but wasn't. Yeah, we also got Ninjor. And if you rewatch the series, you'll be like, Ninjor's basically just Goku. He is. He flies around on a flying Nimbus and then shows up and then does things and talks with a really weird voice. So yeah. No, Ninja is cool. I'm not going to go against him, but yikes. We also had the same old stuff. We've been seeing multiple seasons going on there. There wasn't any major development in character-wise, the same stuff going on there. We had some stuff being introduced with Tommy and the like, but there was basically just a repeat mix of what was going on there. Now it is so far up on the list at being number 12 because, well, it is still one of the original series that helped create Power Rangers and grew as a team. They knew that eventually they had to change things, and that's why they ended it with a bang. Now this season did end with a bang, with the Power Race being destroyed, or appeared to be destroyed, and then going on to Zeo. But again, that only redeems some points. Also, the mentor was still Zordon, though they were starting to change the voice for Alpha 5, and it was getting a little weird. So, let me let you know there, that is Mighty Morphin Season 3. Rewatch it, you'll be going, okay, whatever. Now, at number 11, Mystic Force. Mystic Force, the season that had a rap battle in it. Now, rap battle, I mean like the theme song was a rap battle. Was very different from all the other series of Power Rangers. It was the first season that didn't have a crossover. It was also the first season that, well, okay, 1, 2, and 3 doesn't count as a crossover because there was nothing to crossover with. Gonna point that out. Mystic Force had the opportunity to crossover, but they didn't do it. They had nothing else going on there. It was completely different from anything of Power Rangers we had learned. It had some tie-ins to the original Power Rangers with the Mystic Mother being Rita Repulsa. That was pretty cool and a good callback. I was going, is that what you say? Is that Rita Repulsa? It was. So I was like, going, that's pretty cool. We had cool armor, we had cool dragons, we had mystical items, and a world beside our world that was in a parallel universe that people couldn't see because, well, it was a parallel universe. It was like a little bubble dimension. We had interesting rangers. We had the White Ranger, who only appeared at the very beginning and the very end, Udana, in a ranger form at least. We also had the Mighty Knight Korak. The entire storyline of the villains made sense to me. Why they couldn't just rush out and attack? They were sealed behind a gate. They were still seals behind the master. He couldn't get out. They had to go do certain things. When the 10 Terror showed up, they had to follow a certain law or do things. I understand that. Instead of them just rushing out and destroying them, they would broke the law of like their order or the law of evil or magic or whatever the heck they were doing. They couldn't just rush out and do certain things. I understand that. I understand her necroli. I understand the plot points of certain characters, the corruption of characters as time goes on. I even like the reveal that Korag is Lianbo, which I kind of saw coming, but it was still good. It was a very Darth Vader moment, like, I am your father. But I didn't realize that until this exact moment. And like, he reveals good. He keeps going back and forth and self-sacrificing himself, essentially Lianbo did. And then Bowen, or as we know him as Nick, basically got corrupted by the Master at the very end and became Korag only to be redeemed by his father and his friends, and they were able to fight down this eldritch abomination known as the Master, Optimus. And I thought that was a really good villain. He was very corrupting and basically going, I understand what I'm doing. I understand why he's like corrupting. He needs to break out. He needs to do anything he needs to do to break out. And he doesn't care about his minions per se because he's an undead legion army, so he doesn't really care too much about them. But he just wants to be free to devour magic. And they defeated him with his own gluttony. They basically said, you know what? If you want to eat magic, we're gonna fill you up on it, because he was basically eating magic and then resting. They just poured all the magic into him, and he self-destructed. That is one way to take down a villain, and I'll say, heck yeah. Now, it had some weak points. It had no real connection to, well, the rest of Power Rangers, so it kind of threw me off slightly. Some of the little storyline backgrounds were cool, but overall, it was a good season. And at this point, you have to be a good season to be this high on the bracket at number 11. But the next couple series at the top 10 are really hard to strive and beat against. Mystic Force was good. It had a good catchy theme song. The Rangers were interesting, but some of the Rangers were annoying. And Xander, I'm just going to say it, Xander, just sort of, he was kind of redeemed points off there that took it off there. Overall, it was a good series. I loved it, I enjoyed it, but it doesn't make my top 10. At number 10. At number 10, and this was really hard to decide because there's a lot of things going on there. Wild Force. Wild Force made the top 10, kind of like a very barely fight there with the last season, Mystic Force, but it overall had some better overall character points that gave it additional points there. We will start out here. The weak points were none other than, well, we had a mentor who was kind of like she was a princess. She was more just like a viewing globe. That's kind of all her major role was, and a love interest. I didn't see her as like giving too much sage advice at times. She did, but it's mostly the Rangers talking themselves and having their own moments of reflection. However, points to give it additionally wise from this point are pretty strong. There was very little here besides, acting was kind of bad sometimes, but the series was good. There was no major issues beyond this point, and this is why it was made more top here. We had awesome Rangers. The Red Ranger was cool, but the whole storyline of each individual Ranger was even better. We had them growing up as time goes on. We had the Blue Ranger say, don't call me a kid, don't call me a kid. And it kept referred to, and eventually he grew as a person the entire time, and people were going to respect him more. We had the Black Ranger basically giving away his personal love because he didn't want to see her hurt at all, and he knew he couldn't show her full attention because he was a Power Ranger and couldn't protect her the entire time. We had the Yellow Ranger who gave up her basically just gave up her entire military career to save the world and basically go AWOL. That's a huge thing for her because she was definitely straight military. She would have been a full career pilot and then eventually just being like showing them whatever they wanted to do. She would have been set for an entire life. We had the Red Ranger, whose family had been murdered kind of on screen, like not really shown on screen, but it was like in a flashback, and it was showed that they were murdered. And he was raised by Aborigines and monkeys and had this whole type of thing going on there. And he went up back to find his family. Now that's a normal Red Rangers have that thing where they go and find their family and have some connection here and there. However, that whole awesome play on things of where it's revealed that his kind of uncle, it wasn't really his uncle, but his father's best friend and his mother's best friend was the one responsible for murdering them, and by eating these Master Org seeds, and he grew power, but he wasn't the true Master Org, was pretty awesome to reveal it. And then he was knocked out unconscious. Even the other Orgs tried to take him out a few times, and then he came back as Master Org, completely devoured and essentially dead. He was completely possessed by the true form of Master Org. Was awesome. Then we have Zanaku. Top tier villainy right then and there. He's very honorable. He's very like Korag on so many levels, but he more conflicted. The only little knockoff here is I want to know more about Zanaku's past and his connection to Master Org. Were they rivals or something like that going there? There should be more told off here. But Zanaku was so cool they couldn't just kill him. He was revealed to be one of the Rangers from the past, and then when they even purged Naku entirely, destroying his mask, he still came back, not once but twice, to fight against the Silver Ranger, and then like come again to go with him to learn what it meant to be, I don't know, like a living being, like his connection with the rest of this world. And I was like going, holy crap, Zanaku is awesome. He was a badass werewolf type of thing with the horn. Like, he was super strong, stronger than anybody. And even in the past, his power alone was what defeated Master Orc. So you know what, top tier writing for that one. There was very little issue. The Orcs basically coming back. He wanted to bring him back to conquer the world and return things back under his control, and they wanted to pollute the world. They even, instead of like just trying to kill off the god Animus, they wanted to corrupt him to turn him on their side and blame humanity for all the pollution and stuff like that, which is kind of true. They were the kind of cause for this, why the Orcs were even coming out. It was like, well, we're a natural byproduct of humanity, so if you're going to blame anybody, you blame humanity. We also had Toxica and Gendrix. Sorry, we know who you're talking about. They were great as the villains. They were started as like major villains, and then kind of like a comical pairing. And then as time went on, they came to realize, hey, Master Orc is not a good guy. All these other orcs are not really good guys, and they went to the side of good and lived on along with Zanaku the entire time. And like when she was murdered on screen, I was going, oh, they killed her, and then he brought him back. That was pretty awesome. They had their own little dark plots going on there against him. Top tier writing, and that is why it is number 10. Now at number 9, we have none other than Dino Fury. I'm sorry, Dino Thunder. I'm gonna throw everyone off by that one. Dino Thunder. Now, Dino Thunder was a great series. It was smart of Disney to make it this way. They brought back Tommy Oliver, and if there's anything that brings anyone back to Power Rangers, it is Tommy Oliver. I am not the biggest Tommy Oliver fan, however, it was smart. There is so many people out there who are faux nerds, like faux Power Ranger nerds, I'll say. By when I put the word faux, I mean like they're kind of fake. They know their interests, like, so when you say anime, and they go, oh yeah, I know Demon Slayer and Naruto, but they don't know anything else. You can't say like, oh, Evangelion or all this other type of stuff, or if I say something from the past, like, let's go Cowboy Bebop or Trigon, they're like, oh, I don't know what that is. Oh my god, okay, well, I'm sorry. Or some of the other really obscure ones out there. Faux nerds are basically guys who just gleamed off, guys and gals who just gleamed off the top layer of things and said, I know everything about this. The same thing happens with the Marvel movies all the time. Oh, those are Spider-Man in his true form. Like, well, no, there's multiple issues of Spider-Man, but so whatever, you're just taking what pieces you want of it. But hey, but there's one thing, well, why I had this little rant here, there's one thing that is going for Dino Thunder, and it's the fact that they brought Tommy. Everyone talks about, they remember 2 series, Mighty Morphin, because they had Tommy as the Green Ranger and White Ranger, and then they also remember Dino Thunder. I remember that as cool, it had Tommy in it, and that was it. It was pretty interesting to listen to people constantly say that over and over again. Tommy, 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 Tommy. But when they really should be talking about is the cool 5th Ranger of that team, the White Ranger, who had a very similar story to Tommy's original storyline of like a Green Ranger, but he was an evil ranger who had been corrupted. His Dino had been corrupted, and he was basically fighting against himself and attacking the Rangers and trying to conquer the overall villainy here. Now, why is it only number 9 if it was so good? Well, there are certain issues here. Mesogog, as a villain, he was terrifying. I'll give you this. He was very terrifying. He was very sinister looking. His costume design was great. However, his plan, I didn't understand it. Like, he wanted to turn that time back to the dinosaurs, but most of his things weren't dinosaur related. So I don't understand what was going on there. Most of his minions weren't dinosaur related. They were just they were all human slave cyborgs, essentially. So I don't understand what his thing is and how he came to being. Was he born out of Dr. Mercer's subconscious about dinosaurs, or was it born by some of the other ways? That was just kind of like a fault point there at why it's only number 9, but it did beat out because the fan factor and the overall, there's a lot of memorable moments. Also, Trent is my favorite White Ranger. His whole design is awesome, and I have to give it props there. So that is why that is number 9. At number 8, we have none other than Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 1. Season 1 is at number 8. How dare you? It's probably what you're probably saying right now. But there's some major issues. They didn't have a plot, so it took off a lot of things. However, it beat the other series because it is the introduction to Power Rangers in itself. You can't fight that. We also had the first Sixth Ranger ever show up, Tommy as the Green Ranger. And I can say I don't like Tommy, but guess what? He was awesome. Like, there was no way. His costume design was awesome. He was kicking butt for so many different episodes and the like. There's a lot of plot points here dropped off that had issues, but it was basically the beginnings of Power Rangers and in the 90s, so I can't go against it for that. Why it was being beat by another current Season 2 of it, you'll figure out soon, but it was great. We had a great villain, Rita. She was loud and annoying and always getting headaches. We had Goldar, redeemable characters that everyone kind of remembers. No one kind of remembers Finster or the other ones or Babu, but you know what? That's not really why they're there. They're here to remember certain other characters. Rita, if they remember Rita, that's a good sign. If they remember Goldar, that's a great sign. Now remember all the Rangers there, that's even better. The Zordon as the mentor, introducing them and teaching them how to basically be Rangers, setting the law of Power Rangers itself in that season. Great, awesome first season, and how it was introduced. Bulk and Skull as the comedy act, the basic bullies and the like, pretty great, and I will enjoy the series over and over again. However, I cannot rewatch it so many times till my ears bleed because you know what? It's a series you can watch episode by episode and not really know what the heck's going on at that point. The only time you would need to watch in order would be the Green Ranger episodes, but hey, I gotta redeem there. Now, why is it only number 8? For, well, obvious reasons. It doesn't have a true plot. It was the bringing back of certain things, and I remember certain things from it, but there's these other series that really stand out more to me why that is. At number 7, we have Zeo. And I remember Zeo for multiple different reasons. We had an awesome Sixth Ranger. We still had Zordon as the mentor. And so we have to give it points right then and there. We could have had a lot of different things going on there. Season 3 ended with a bang and had them all connecting back over, showing that there are consequences to their actions, that they can lose as Rangers. It showed us that they can lose as Rangers. I remember watching the series of Season 3 and going, or any of the Rangers and going, oh man, they're going to lose this episode. Oh, they didn't. But the end of the season and the beginning of Zeo shows that they could lose, and that was pretty awesome. Shows the Machine Empire showing up, and some people like the Machine Empire, some people don't. I think they're awesome. I thought their entire political back structure behind them was pretty interesting. Like when King Mondo died, the exiled prince came back, and he didn't want to take the throne because he knew his father was going to be brought back, so he just played all these points, and then as soon as he left, his father resurrected, he left again because he knew he was going to be exiled. I was like, okay, well, that's cool, and he understands, but he gave up his right to position on the throne because he married for love, which is weird for a robot, organic robot of sorts, because it's explained in the comics, but still, I understand that. I'm fully behind that. I pat you in the back for that. There's no issues with that whatsoever. It beat out Season 1 because it had more storyline going on there. It had the brainwashing of Tommy as the Red Ranger. It also had the iconic crew going on there and so on. The only issue with this season is, well, they didn't have a real ending. It kind of just left off there that like, oh, they exploded, but they were going to rebuild themselves. And then it went to the Turbo movie, and that was kind of it. So I felt like if it had a proper ending, it's like they didn't know how to end it. Like, we'll just throw a movie in there and we'll say where their Zeo powers went. They didn't explain how the Zeo powers went. That was just it. So I feel as though that was the issue there. That was the biggest focus. It's why it's only number 7. It could have been so much more, but hey, that is Zeo. So let's go back and think about this. What is going to be number 6? What do you think is going to be number 6? Well, I'll tell you right now. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 2. Season 2 was awesome. It beat out Season 1 and Zeo because it had the introduction of the greatest villain of all time, Lord Zed. And you could say that he is dumbed down as time went on, but they had to because he scared the crap out of children. That in itself tells you something. He was a scary, scary villain. When he first shows up, you have him sitting there on his throne, lightning's flashing, all the villains are going, what the heck's going on here? Except for Goldar. Goldar's like super happy. And he sits on his throne, tapping his little finger, He's got a snake crawling all over him. All of his muscles are exposed. Exoskeleton on his like little pumping veins, like shooting blood into his things. His brain is pulsing. He's got this red visor glowing, and he is terrifying menace. He turns the snake into his staff and immediately gets rid of the old season 1 villain by throwing her in his face. Throwing her in his face. Now, that was going, holy crap, that is something right there. He's a scary villain. He almost took out the Rangers in the first season because he goes, I want to make these putties better. Z putties. And I'll do that. Now, the only little thing I got it further on is that over time he did get kind of neutered and stuff like that. He got weaker. He got poisoned with a magic potion. But he would look at these Rangers and he could hold off his own against them. He could do all these different things. And the Rangers themselves were the same thing. We had halfway through the series, we got new Rangers because the other Rangers left on a peace conference. We're not going to full reason why. But yeah, it was BS. But whatever. We had a lot of good storyline. Now, the only bad points of why this thing was, someone pointed this out to me when they were rewatching the series, and they go, you know, you would watch the series, and I feel bad for those kids. I go, well, the Power Rangers. Like, no. Like, they're just going about their lives, and, like, Kimberly would go, oh, no, I left my scrunchie. I'm just not having a very good day. And then all of a sudden, Zed would just be watching going, oh, Kimberly's not having a good day. Let's turn that into something. Or, like, Bulk and Skull will go, oh, so take care of the class lizard. And they turn around and Zed goes like, I'm gonna make that my monster, and like that would be it. I thought that would be. I was like, that's a pretty good, impressive reenactment. I never really thought about that. It's like Zed is turns into this big menacing threat and then becomes like kind of a bully because he doesn't know what to do because his plans aren't working. So I was like, okay, that is why it is only number 6. At number 5, the top 5 or the countdown has begun, guys, and it is going to be none other than Lost Galaxy at number 5. Lost Galaxy is hard to choose for number 5. There was a lot of series going on here, but as I looked on the list and went through it all, this one makes sense to be number 5. It was a great series. It had a very great overall storyline. Basically, they were trying to find another planet to inhabit because eventually Earth would die off, so they wanted to expand humanity out there. I'm like, okay, cool. It had a great setup, a stowaway. They had basically stole all the costumes from the, what movie was that? That was, crap, someone's going to be really angry with me really quickly. Hold on one second. Starship Troopers. They stole all the costumes from Starship Troopers, made it more like a militaristic, like, okay, we know there's aliens out there because they keep attacking Earth. We're going to use this as a defense force. They didn't have Rangers. They didn't make certain Rangers. And then the people who were left behind on the moon during a training mission go off and pull these swords from stones like something out of King Arthurian myth and fight against the forces of darkness. Now, the evil forces just wanted those swords for their own power. They wanted it. And I understand why they chased after the humanities. They wanted that powers, and they found out about the lights of Orion and the like. So I was like, okay, well, I understand this. He's basically just a mob boss trying to gain back his territory and grow up in power. How he survived the Zordon wave, I don't know, but whatever. He is probably too far out there, and whatever. So he's going out there. We have the great introduction of his daughter, who is a sissy little princess who believes that she's too good to do anything, Trakina. However, over time, she evolves from that sissy little princess into a badass warlord who doesn't take crap from anybody. She will destroy you in every possible fashion. I believe her, for that role, the actress herself got an award. So I was like, I had to clap for that, guys. Their entire character development, she had a whole episode dedicated to her, and her vengeance arc was awesome too. She even killed the man who taught her how to defend herself and what honor was, because she became so warped in her need for vengeance and by Deviat's self-corruption that she killed him and used tactics that would not be considered to be used on any type of kids TV show to this day. You cannot see basically bugs doing suicide bomber tactics in any type of show anymore. That's what they were doing. They were having bombs strapped to the chest and flying at the superstructure that is Terra Adventure and blowing up. You can't see that in a post 9/11 type of world. Like, it's just never going to happen again, guys. That was, I was going like, holy crap. They also had episodes that were like more horror driven rather than Power Ranger driven. When they go off on their, they find a distress signal of the ship that was calling for aid. They go on there and it's 2 Rangers and then the rest of like a elite squad team going off there. They all get picked off one by one until like the 2 Rangers have to like help the rest of the crew, but they can't morph because they're being monitored through their own little sensors here and there, and then they find the rest of the team, and eventually the other team at the end, the rest of the Rangers come over and save them all and say, get them off the ship, we'll just take you back to Terra Venture, and they go, thank you very much. They had to hide that the entire time. That's an impressive role they had. They couldn't just go deal with the issue. They also had monsters here and there. Great. The weakest part about this, though, was the Lost Galaxy arc. It wasn't explained why they even went there, why it was necessary to go there. There wasn't anything major there that I remember. They fought Cat Mutiny and stuff like that, and they learned about slavery and how bad it was, and some alien races are just worse than others and the like. But that was kind of it. Lost Galaxy was awesome, and it also had one of the best Sixth Rangers. And I said one of the best because he wasn't the best, but this guy didn't care about civilian casualties. He had a shotgun essentially and started firing to crowds where there was monsters but also civilians. And even Ranger would go, you can't do that. And he's like, what are you going to do about it? And basically turned his into a sword and fought the Rangers on several different occasions because they got in his way. Gotta love it. I don't care. The Magna Defender was awesome. Now, at number 4, we have none other than my favorite personal series. But it cannot beat these other ones. But this is my own personal series that I love this a lot. RPM. At number 4. So I had to take a hit to this because I had to reevaluate all of these points. RPM is by far the 4th on this list for many different reasons. Now, what happens in RPM? We have a post-apocalyptic world with a villain who has nearly conquered all of it except for a small little hole. This is the first time I've seen a villain that far in the conquest process where basically 99% of the world's conquered except for this dome city. And he can't get in it because it's protected heavily. They knew how to build a city apparently. I understand that. He's sending monster after monster because he's probably, people are going well, if he's all these things he could have conquered, he has to maintain other certain factories and stuff like that, so he can't call all his forces to do so. But when he's able to get those doors open, going in there, he also has basically a magical line defense around it, so if you try to go through it, he's going to get blown up. It's shown in the first episode. We had Rangers who had all their individual episodes and explaining why and how they became Ranger, why they were chosen, why they were the best candidates possible. By far the saddest was none other than the Yellow Rangers, where it's revealed that her butler, who was her real growing and parental figure, sacrificed himself for her and died in her arms. And it really affected her character growth there. And I was going, holy crap, that is my favorite series. We also had Ziggy, who was never meant to be a Ranger, who was the comic support of the entire thing, but also a great Ranger. The only reason he became a Ranger is because he goes, you can't have this Morpher, it taps his DNA, aha! It's attached to me now. And they went, okay, we'll have to kill you now. He's like, what? Oh, crap. They also called out all the Ranger tropes they've used, of explosions in the past, different things, googly eyes on swords, and it gave reasonable explanations. Dr. K as a mentor was very interesting character. I would say interesting because she was not a good mentor at times. She was kind of a bitch. I would say this. She was just painful to deal with because she wouldn't tell you full things. She didn't want to give you full advice because she didn't think it was necessary in that department. She would basically tell you the straightforward facts, what you should do and how you should do it, and basically would question you why you didn't do it her way. She was also revealed to the creation of the main villain of the series in a very reasonable arc where it's explained she was the creator because she was basically kidnapped as a kid for being really smart, and it was her only way to escape was to create this virus that was to infect their systems, and then she would put once she completed the virus, though, it was supposed to just delete itself after she had escaped. But they stopped her from doing so, which I thought was pretty awesome. That was a good explanation. They basically just tore it from the laptop before she could get it, complete the full thing, and it just grew in mass and conquered the world. So that is great. It had some very few weak points. It was separate from the original universe, and it was Disney's last homage to Power Rangers before they ended the entire line of series. We wouldn't know for certain. We thought it was the last series until Saban bought it back, and then brought it back under Samurai, under Nickelodeon. I love the series. I love everything about it. However, the next few series definitely take the cake here, guys. At number 3, we have Lightspeed Rescue. Lightspeed Rescue beat out my boy for many reasons, and it was a hard thing to do. Lightspeed Rescue took professionals as Rangers to fight against the forces of darkness, and I like that. I understand teenagers with attitude every time, but sometimes when you're fighting against demons, you need someone a little more professional. And these were not just professionals in one situation. These were professionals with different types of things. Rock climbing, survivalism, firefighter, ace pilot, his own daughter, essentially, for that, an ambulance driver. I don't really know why she was talking about the fact that she was his own daughter. And then also, we have a great lifeguard / undersea diver of sorts. These were all taken in their best of their roles, chosen to become Lightspeed Rescue Rangers and fight against the forces of darkness. Now, I liked the background story. I liked a lot of different things in here. The 6th Ranger was cool, but not shown enough. The demons themselves were awesome. I understand where they came from. I understand they wanted to take back what was theirs. If you say you were in Cryogenic Frozen and you woke up and you found out that all your home was currently being occupied by other people, and you were told that you couldn't have your land back and you were going to be killed for this, you would also go, screw you, dude. This is my land. This is my empire. This is my demonic empire. I'm going to take over. You can't stop me. And I liked Diabolico, I liked Impus, I liked Queen Benshir. They were all really good villains. Diabolico was the best. He was the only reason, and the voice actor himself even agreed with me, he was the only reason that the Rangers even won against Queen Benshir, because she betrayed him so early on and killed off all his friends. When he came back as a spirit form, he pulled her down into the underworld and saved the Red Ranger, thus allowing the Rangers to seal away the tomb once and for all, and her getting eaten by undead zombie people, apparently. I enjoy that. I really like that whole thing, and I think it was amazing on so many different levels. And it still beat RPM because it was a much darker series. It had to do with basically when the Red Ranger lost his courage and stuff like that, and he reveals he was inspired to become a firefighter by this other person's sacrifice. It's revealed that it was his own current mentor. I was like, oh, that's pretty awesome. I remember that whole thing about the fires going off and stuff like that. I remember the whole, like, the danger scenes, they seemed real to me. I just liked it. Everything about that series really hit me off the top there. The mentor was kind of weak at times, but he was also very strong. He wasn't, like, inflexible entirely. He would go out and have fun and stuff like that, but he was also, this is what we have to do, this is how we do it. And I understand that entirely. He didn't know everything, but he was willing to go, okay, Rangers, this is what we need to do. How do we achieve this goal? And sometimes that's all you kind of need, is someone to put things in perspective. And that's why Lightspeed Rescue was number 3. At number 2, the final 2 going down from here. Ooh, it's been a long time in this thing. I'm glad you guys are still in this part going on here. And that is going to be Time Force. Yes, Power Rangers Time Force as number 2. Now, this series was awesome on so many levels. It wasn't interesting, it was awesome. We had a Ranger die in the first episode, cut down by the main villain, who then escaped from custody and went in the past. And I was like going, holy crap, that is so awesome. We also had a main overarching story moment that basically told you, it was basically, hey, think about this, kids, to grow and learn from. And not many series do that anymore. And the overall story is like going, hatred is a vicious cycle. Stop trying to hate each other and come to understand and love one another. That's what his thing says. Like when Frax was saying the cycle of hatred is just going to eat away at everybody, he went from a person who had no problem with anybody, mutant, human, robot. He had no problem with anybody. He would help anybody he could because he saw it was a stupid cycle. And he said, once we can get away with this, we'll be fine. If this cycle can be broken, it will be the greatest thing for humanity and for mutants and for everybody. And when he saw Nadira do that, he had this moment. He's like, keep doing it. Keep going the same track of line. Break the cycle. And then he gets, like, wiped out, deleted. His entire memory banks get deleted. I was going, holy crap, that is a character death who basically was trying to tell you the entire story. He wasn't just calling to her, but he was telling everybody else as you watched it. Don't let this cycle of hatred eat away at you. Get past that. And we kind of need that nowadays because we're kind of filled with that hatred towards other things we don't understand or misunderstandings. You can just look at everything that's currently going on in the world. Beyond that, we had great Rangers. We had Rangers we respected. We had Jenna as the Pink Ranger, and arguably the true leader and heart of that team. She guided the Rangers, she led the Rangers, and she was kind of also Ranger and mentor. They had Circuit there as the Alpha 5-like character, but it was truly Jenna who was the leader and mentor who got things pushed through. She goes, we're going to do this for the right reason. She also had a great love interest with Wes, and I thought that was a great thing. They kept playing off each other. They would hint at things, but never really fully caught out and call each other out on it, and it was kind of cool. We also had a great Sixth Ranger, though he was another Red Ranger. He was the Quantum Ranger, and he was kind of a jerk the entire series until near the end, where he grew more respect for the Time Force Rangers. I liked that they were not direct, like Wes's father was not like fully supportive of his son until he really came to respect him, seeing him willing to sacrifice himself for the cause, as well as his own father gave up his car so that refugees could get out of the city. That was a big moment for him too. Him also growing as a person rather than seeing money signs. He wanted to grow and go, you know what? These people are more important than money and other things, and whereas my son? My son is the most important thing to me. So it also had very dark moments that you very rarely see in Power Rangers, and I really approve of, because I feel as though kids of all ages have dark moments and things, but they would like to see the light that other people, the Rangers themselves, went through these things and were able to push past them. And I like that. I thought this was a really good growing series, and a lot of people know this. Rancic was a great villain. He was a great father at times. Like, there was some times where when he went off at Ballistic and hit his daughter, he immediately, that's what defeated him. It wasn't the Rangers defeated him. When he hurt his daughter is what really defeated him, and he gave up. He realized that he had lost his way because he was willing to hurt his own daughter. And I really, really enjoyed the series on so many levels. That's why it was number 2. Now, we are at number 1. And if you've done the numbers so far, that is Power Rangers in Space. Power Rangers in Space was by far my favorite and best series, in my opinion, of the entire Power Rangers franchise. On so many levels, it hit all the check marks entirely. Now, you're probably going to go, what do you mean? They didn't even have a mentor. They didn't need a mentor because they were looking after trying to find the greatest mentor of all time. They were looking after none other than Zordon, who had been captured. And it was a great redemption story for all the Rangers, besides Justin, from Turbo into In Space series. They got there, they were looking for Andros, who was kind of a lone wolf, I had to carry the weight of the world on my shoulders, personal ranger. He had to learn about teamwork, he had to basically learn from these guys, and at times the Blue Ranger would take the mantle of leader because he was the former leader of the Turbos and would help steer Andros in the right direction, and I enjoy that, I really do, because he would look after when Andros would run off to go deal with a Corone type issue or Darkana issue. He would lead the team from there on out. Then we had the Silver Ranger Zane show up. He had been Andros' best friend. He apparently had been severely injured and almost on death, put into cryo in a battle previously before the series even started, that Andros was very concerned about his health. He didn't want to resurrect him because he thought he would die instantly. And it really messed with Andros when he thought he lost his friend again. He lost his people. He lost everything else. What is this going on there? The villains themselves were great. We had so many great villains. We have Dark Honda, the most vile and villainous of all those villains there. He always had a plan. It wasn't explained until later on in the series how he kept coming back after the explosion. We made a deal with Dark Spectre, and I enjoyed that. Like, he got 9 lives. He could just keep doing it. That was pretty cool. We also had Corone, or as we call her, Astronema in the series. And that reveal was pretty interesting. I thought that was as I was watching it going, oh, it's his sister. That's pretty cool. And we had, we had one character, Ecliptor, was like, hey, I know what's going to happen here. I know that you're Corone, but I can't tell you right away. So he basically, instead of being a jerk, he helps save Andros on one occasion. And then even though she was going to probably turn away from darkness, protected her and helped protect her, even though he was supposed to be a direct servant of darkness itself. He saved her on so many different occasions. He was the father figure that she really needed. And even though he was evil, he was still a very good guy. Even more so than probably Rancic was, because he never turned on her unless he was turned into a cyborg. They had to literally brainwash him to do this against her. And then in the end, he still cared about her more than anybody. He was still willing to turn upon Dark Spectre when she basically said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna steal Dark Spectre's powers, weaken him, and then I can kill him." And he was like, "Yeah, I'm behind this." I was going, holy crap, he's still so loyal to her on so many levels. We also had the Psycho Rangers, the greatest enemy ranger team to show up to date. They nearly killed the Rangers savagely on several different occasions. When they died, they kept coming back multiple different times and even tried to take out Corone or Astronema, as well as Ecliptor on 1 or 2 occasions themselves. There was also them coming back later on in another series, so you gotta love that. These guys were awesome looking and definitely nefarious on certain different levels. Now the main point why this is the number 1 point here of why it's number 1 series, I know I kind of just repeated myself, but it's number 1 series in my opinion, is because of the final battle. Humanity was given a choice to reveal the Rangers or be destroyed, and then these people just showed up and said, "I'm the Red Ranger, I'm the Red Ranger." It was basically I'm a Spartacus moment. We'll go, I'm Spartacus, I'm Spartacus, I'm Spartacus. And it gave the Rangers hope, and people fought back against their overlordic oppressors. And I was like going, that's pretty awesome, calling back all these people to do this stuff. It also went from there as Andros' final battle against Ecliptor, and he's about to lose, and Zordon's right there beside him. He goes, "Andros, strike this and kill me. I'll take care of it from here." And he's like, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "Yes, it's the only way." And he kills Zordon, which creates the Zordon wave, deletes all of the villains on Earth and throughout the galaxy, wiping out armies of the Machine Empire and then some, turning Rita, Zed, and none other than Divatox into their humanoid good halves. And it's just like a bittersweet moment of going, we lost Zordon, but he took out all the forces of darkness with him. Also, Corone is turned quote-unquote good at this point, but killed? But it's kind of revealed that she survived, and it's like a good, happy moment where she's completely free of the brainwashing of Dark Spectre. Dark Spectre also dies not by the Rangers, but by the own backstabbing of Dark Conda, who shoots a world-killing missile at him. Like, that is like this guy who's been like huge, too powerful for the Rangers to even deal with, wasn't killed by the Rangers, but by his own villains themselves, and I like that. I really did. I enjoyed every part of this type of thing. It was a more story-driven, like, hey, we gotta find Zordon, and go from there. We gotta find all these different things. We gotta keep going. We found my team. We gotta find these. Oh, we found my people here. That's awesome. Like, Andros was like slowly reviving as a person and getting away from this like world weight on his shoulders and becoming more and more open as time went on. And that is why it is number 1 in Power Rangers series of 29 whole seasons that I counted. I know I had to merge 1 or 2, but you know what? I did what I had to do. So thank you guys so much for watching this entire video to this point. I know it's close to about an hour, so thank you guys so much. I did a lot of these in one takes, and I messed up a few times, but hey, that's what I'm here for. You guys have a good one. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. Tell me down below what you think of this list. You can say you utterly hate it. You can point out the whole list here, there, but you know what? Deep down, I think you know I'm somewhat right. Have a good one, guys, and may the power protect you always.